Hello, in this video I'm going to share with you how I made these miniature Easter baskets. They measure about 2.5 inches tall. They fit about 4 or 5 pieces of miniature chocolates. And I made them with these seed starter pots from Dollar Tree. These come 12 seed starter pots within a package for $1, again from the Dollar Tree. So let's get started. So let's take a look at the supplies we're going to use. First, we need some tissue paper that we're going to use to cover the outside of the pot. We need the pots themselves, some Mod Podge glue, like a foam brush to brush that on, some scissors. We also need some tissue to make our tissue paper shred for inside the basket, some twine, I got this at Dollar Tree, and whatever candy we're going to put in, and of course a glue gun. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is cut the tissue that we're going to use to decoupage the seed starter pots. You can see I'm not really fully unwrapping the tissue. I just kind of unfolded that first fold that you do when you're opening a package of tissue paper. And I'm just cutting these strips. It's not even quite an inch wide, and you can cut them even more narrow if you'd like. And once you get those strips cut, you'll go ahead and open up the folds on the tissue and cut those strips into about, I don't know, 1 inch to 2-inch long strips. And you'll just want to make sure that you're cutting enough pieces that you can cover your seed pot probably about 3 times. I mean, that tissue paper is pretty thin, and so it is going to take a few layers. All right, so once you get the tissue paper strips cut, it's time to use Mod Podge and to cover up those seed pots. So basically I use a foam brush, and I like to fold the tissue over the top first. I do want the tissue to show on the inside a little, because remember, even when I fill it with candy, you'll see the very top of the inside. So you don't need to decoupage the whole inside, but you're just trying to get enough, I'd say, to go over a 1/2 inch, maybe even 1 inch would be better on the inside. So I'm starting out just by brushing that Mod Podge along the top of my seed pot, both on the outside and the inside. And then you'll see I'm picking up the strips of the tissue, and I'm just kind of putting them on vertically and folding them over. Again, I'm just trying to work my way around the seed pot so that once I fill it up, you'll see on the inside of the basket, you will see the whatever color it is of tissue. In my case, this blue tissue, my basket will look blue on the inside. Also, if you do find today's video helpful at all, I'd really appreciate it if you just take a second and hit the like button. Okay, so once I get the tissue paper all around the top part of the seed pot, I do pick up my foam brush again and brush Mod Podge all across where I've just tissue papered my seed pot. It's just important that it's not dry. A lot of times it will be, so you want to make sure that that glue is good and kind of soak through the tissue. So then I flip it over and I start doing the bottom. I get the Mod Podge all over the bottom of the pot, and I continue to brush kind of pretty much the rest of the side, whatever doesn't have tissue paper on it. But I'm going to start by covering the bottom. I put a piece, straight across, and then when I pick up my next piece, you're going to see I crisscross those 2 pieces, and then I continue to do that until I get the entire bottom of the seed pot covered. So once I finish getting the tissue paper covering the full bottom of the pot, I go ahead and start putting the tissue paper along the sides, and I just keep adding the tissue paper until I have maybe 2 or 3 layers, and I can't really see the brownness of the seed pot anymore. So once you get your baskets or seed pots covered in the tissue paper, then you really just need to let that Mod Podge dry. You want to be careful, because if you start filling the basket or seed pot with your tissue and candy and that glue is wet, that could be kind of gross. So I just let mine dry overnight. Okay, so while that glue is drying, one thing I can do is I can cut my strips of tissue paper that I'm going to use for the grass for the inside of my basket. So you can see here, this is just a regular piece of tissue paper. It's not unfolded, and I'm cutting really narrow strips. I mean, pretty much as thin as you can cut those strips off of that tissue, because most of the grass In baskets is pretty skinny, and these particular baskets are very, very tiny. So I just to let you know, I way overcut. I cut way more grass than I need. A little bit goes a really, really long way. So basically, after you get those strips cut, you just grab an end, find where the end is, and just shake it, and that's going to really unfold all those layers of tissue and help you see what you've got here. And I just like to continue and get it all shaken out. And then once I do that, a lot of times I'll go ahead and start cutting it, maybe like each piece in 2 or 3 different pieces, or you can wait and do that as you're stuffing the Easter basket, which is actually having to do it today. You can see here I have a lot of tissue paper left. I just want to point out how little tissue paper this big pile here produced. So don't cut too much, a little goes far. So once I have my grass ready, I'm ready to make the handle for my basket. And here I'm using this jute twine. Again, this is twine that I get at the Dollar Tree. It's $1. There's so much on here, you can use it for a really long time, make lots of projects. So I cut 3 pieces about 11 inches long, and I tape those 3 pieces to my table, and then I'm braiding them. This is just a basic braid. And I'm doing this because that jute twine, I really love it, but it is pretty thin. And if I were just to glue in 1 strand of jute twine into my basket, it would just be so flimsy it would flop over. And so I really needed to kind of bulk that up a little bit. And that's when I decided that by braiding it together, it would actually make that thicker and it would make it hold up really nice as a basket handle. So I went through and I braided this 11-inch strip of twine. And then once you get that braided, I just cut a piece of tape, like Scotch tape, and I put that tape around the end of the twine. It's just going to make it a lot easier. First, it's going to hold the braid together, but it's going to make it a lot easier to glue this little rope into the Easter basket. So I put the Scotch tape on both sides of this braided piece of twine. So then you're going to use your hot glue gun to glue each side of the braided twine into your basket. And you're going to want to glue these deep enough so that you're not going to see the tape on the end of each side of the twine. So I tried to just get down there as far as I could. You want to make sure you have enough basket rope, so don't stick it in really far and then only have that basket rope like pop up like 1 inch. I mean, it does need to come up, you know, a good 2.5 to 3 inches above the basket rim. So just kind of play that by ear, but get that glued in and then hold that. It's going to take about 30 seconds for that glue to dry, but here you can kind of see what that looks like and how nice that braided twine looks in this miniature Easter basket. All right, so once you get that twine glued into the basket, it's time to go ahead and start filling that basket with the grass so that then you can put the candy on top. So I just start grabbing some of my grass and just cutting it into pieces. This tissue paper shred is pretty long, which is great if you have big containers, but when you have really tiny containers, you may need to cut like 1 strand 2 to 4 times just to get the right length to be able to tuck it into this basket. So I just tuck it in, kind of smash it in there, and I don't worry too much about being perfect because the candy's really going to cover most of it. I just start tucking the candy in, and once I get all the candy in that I'm going to put, then I can add a few more pieces of the grass if I kind of want some sticking out. And that's it. This Dollar Tree DIY miniature Easter basket project is super easy to make, and I love the low price. With 12 pots for $1 and the minimal other supplies I needed, just a little bit of twine came from the Dollar Tree too, and a little bit of tissue, I'm looking at about 10 cents a piece for these baskets, plus the cost of the candy. And if you found anything in this video helpful, or you enjoyed it, please take just a second and like the video. I'd really appreciate that. And if you like DIY craft videos, or you like to decorate for holidays with DIY decorating, please take a second to subscribe as well.